Hello everyone, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name is Jason and today we've got a first impressions for you. This is a 2024 new tool from Airfix that has started hitting the shops in the last few days. So it hasn't been available until early 2025, but has been announced some time ago, so many of us will have seen some of the pre-builds of this by Airfix, and it's been quite highly anticipated. I first saw it at the Telford Model Show. So I've not looked in the box. This kit I have purchased, so I'm free to say what I think about it. So this is an honest review. Let's take a look. Right, let's start with the packaging, which is something we focus on these days because of the way that most people are now purchasing kits. They get delivered to you, so the packaging has become much more important in recent years than it perhaps used to be. And the first thing I'm going to say is there is movement in there, but not a lot. We've got a box that's not overly deep. So they've obviously tried to get the box to fit the size of the sprues, so that's brilliant. You can see, perhaps you can see in the light there, that this is a corrugated box. Both the upper and lower part of the box is corrugated, so we've got some really good protection there. And on top we've got some really nice artwork. I mean, the box is just filled with this lovely Lysander. It's such a nice looking aircraft. Tells us that we've got a 1:48 scale Westland Lysander Mark 1 or Mark 3, and our kit number is A07116, so you can get this with your flying hours. We've got the usual information on the side here, little warning messages, and over here it tells us we've got cartograph decals, that the tooling is 2024, pack design is 2024, and it's made in India. And the edges pretty much tell us the same as what's on the front. And then on this side we've got two paint schemes, a very brief bit of history. So we've got number 16 Squadron, Royal Air Force, Old Sarum, is that? Salisbury, Wiltshire, England, 1938 to 1939. So fairly standard camouflage scheme there, but looks like we've got black under wings there, which is interesting. And then we've got this one, which is number 309 Polish Fighter Reconnaissance Squadron, Royal Air Force, Renfrew, Glasgow, Scotland, 1940. This has got the bomb racks on it, and obviously we've got the Polish markings as well. I think a lot of people are going to want to do it with the bomb racks, and I'm no different. So yeah. Then we've got our list of all our paints required here. And our skill level is 3 and our flying hours is 3. So let's take a look and see what the contents look like. So it's held together with 4 pieces of tape, which means your lid's going to stay where it is and you're not going to have any issues with the box lid coming off and things getting lost in transit or any of that stuff. So as we take the box off, we can see that the box is actually fairly full. I mean, when we could hear things moving around, it's basically this top bag. Everything else is pretty much fit in the box, I think. or certainly the bottom sprue is. So we've got 1, 2, 3 bags. There's a 4th bag inside this bag with the clear parts on. So that's quite nicely packaged actually. And then at the bottom we've got our instructions. I'm not seeing any decals, so maybe they're in the instructions. We've got a paint sheet, yeah, and our decals in the instructions, love that. Right then, let's take a look at our instructions. So our instructions are the familiar normal Airfix layout. We've got A4 portrait stapled colour instructions. On the front we've got a little bit of history and the aircraft specifications. Then at the bottom here we have the little notice asking you to wash the parts. And then when we open that up, we've got a little assembly icon here at the bottom, which is quite comprehensive, telling us all the little key that we're going to have. And then we start with step 1 on page 3, which is building up a fuel tank. So we've got a fuel tank being built up. Then we've got, so what we've got there, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts for the fuel tank. So, you know, Airfix are really starting to get part heavy as they focus on detail, which I like. Then we've got the frame, which allows for it to be mounted into the floor framework. Then we're adding in the little stool. I believe that swings, as I recall, from when I previously built a Lysander. I have built a Lysander on the channel before. I nearly finished it, and then the kit got the better of me because it wasn't a great kit. That was an Edward one. Then we're painting in what I think might be ammunition, because there's a tail gun in that area. Then we're putting detail into the frame. We've got some more paint instructions, some decals to go on around some levers here, and we're adding a little wheel, putting that side frame on. More details going in. Then we've got the upper frame going in with the little opening there for the pilot. There's a couple of parts, a couple of ejector pins there that asking us to remove. Then as we go over, we're putting the other side on. We've got some detail there that's going on the inside of the frame, so it's behind the frame there. And then we can see that in orientation, and we've got some decals to go on there. Painting that black, putting decals on, so that should look quite smart. Then we've got the map table going on top of the fuel tank, and an option of maps. Now if you put those onto a bit of foil, there's no reason why you can't use both of them. Have one laid out, have one rolled up. Yeah, so another bit of the framework going in. I think this is the point that mounts the wings here. And then we've got pedals going in, the pilot's top frame, and again we've got decals going on there. So there's lots of decals. This is brilliant, and you can see there's lots of detail on there as well. Then we're putting another. These look like the things on the floor, so I think they're ammunition, but I might be completely wrong. Pilot seat going together with an option of the pilot. Oh, and we've got harnesses. Yay! So we've got an option of a seat without a harness, so we can put the pilot in, or a seat with the harness, because we've not got the pilot in. Love that. I love that. Okay. The armrests appear to be collapsible as well. So again, if you've got the pilot in, you need one of them down. If you've not got the pilot in, you can have both of them up. installing the seats. That's quite a nice little detailed build up, isn't it? And then a couple of images showing you what that seat should look like when installed. Then we're putting on like an end cap, engine bulkhead, whatever you want to call it. Then we've got again more. These are definitely ammunition. We've got some more ejector pins to remove, but they're in hidden places, so that's great. Then there's a little frame that sits on top of those with something going on top. Another little structural piece going in, steering column going in with an exploded view with paint instructions. That's fabulous. Then we're doing all our dials, so a single decal for the dials. You can choose to punch them out if you want, depends on whether you're painting or not. And then we've got our first fuselage half, and it's telling us to paint it in 61 and then cockpit green in this area here. So I can't remember what 61 is off the top of my head. So then we've got what I think is a little radiator grill or something that's going in there from the inside. We're painting it 56. Is that gunmetal? I think so. Got a little bit that we have to trim off, so that's probably for a different version that they plan to release at some point, I guess. We've got some drilling to do there. There's an option there to drill the hole out, but I'm not quite sure what that option is for, and they're not giving you a drill size, so I would go with the size of the hole for that, and at a 50 degrees angle. Okay, that's possibly why they've made it a skill level 3. I wonder what that's for. I'm sure we'll see later on. So we've got all this internal framework and cockpit built up, and that's now being installed into our first fuselage half. The other fuselage goes on the side, so we're not drilling a hole in there. And then we've got a little top piece here that goes in at the front. And then underneath we've got a bottom section of fuselage, which has got our part of our wheel mounts moulded in, and then it's telling us to see step 107 on page 15 on which part we want to put on. That'll be to do with mounting the bombs, I think, but it is telling us there A and B, whereas this is just right, sorry, I did miss this. It's an option if you're doing B, so if you're doing the bomb version, the Polish version, okay, and you're only cutting that out on A. Yeah, I've been missing the little, yeah, it's because I'm skimming through it. Right, building up the tail, so 2-part tail, no donut rings, so we shouldn't get the sink, so that should be good. Interesting little box construction there for this, rather than a biscuit, so that should give us or get rid of the issue of droop, so it should be yeah, that's a nice idea. That I've not seen that before. I guess in a lot of aircraft it's perhaps not possible, but in this one it is. I also think that they are interlocking, so I think that is smaller and going in on the inside of that, so you'll have really stable construction there. I love that. Again, we've got some options depending on whether you want them in flying position or takeoff and landing position. Okay, interesting. That's a very cool feature. Then we've got separate tail, again 2 pieces, but we're not going to be able to move it around without modification. Step 44 now, so we're now looking at the wheels. Again, little modification whether you're doing version A or version B, because one of them is going to have the little wheel cap on and one of them won't. So we've got the light going in, and that's a nice way of doing it. We've got a little inner ring there which is holding that light in, and then we're building that up. That looks rather cool. And then of course, if you're doing B, you need this little wing that juts out to mount the bombs on. So it shows you building each side of the wheel strut there. That's really good. And then you can see them being fastened on. We're then building up the wings, so we've got separate tyres, separate hubs. Love that. And then you've got two different types of hubs depending on whether you've got the wheel enclosed or not. Okay, and we have to build that in sequence. Well, I think that sort of makes sense when you look at it. It's going to make painting easier though, so that's great. So we can see that carried on there, and then we're installing the wheels. And if you're on version A, you've then got a little wing wheel covers, I should say, and then we've got the lamp lenses going in. It's suggesting the lamp lenses is just for A there. Is that right? Don't know. Then we've got the tail wheel going in. Then we've got an item going in. I'm guessing that's some form of sight, is it? Going in the cockpit there. Then we're building up our pilot. Pilot's got separate head and two separate arms. So that again will make it great for painting. And then he's got what looks like a separate parachute going that he's sitting on. Full paint instructions there. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and then we can see our figure sat in there, and you know what? He's holding the steering column. His feet are in contact with the pedals. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Then we've got the next figure. So this is the rear gunner, and again separate head and arms, and we can see all that being painted up, coming together, and once again his position is perfect, and he's actually in contact with the gun. You're not looking like he's holding it, but not in contact. That's fabulous. Love that. Building up the gun, so we've got the separate ammunition. Nice to see that we've got the handle detail on. A lot of recent Airfix kits have not had that detail on, and that's just been like a flat disc. So it's really nice to see we're getting the detail in there. So that's really good. And then we've got the spent shell collection bag there. We do have an option for a double gun. That's for option B, obviously fairly well up armoured. But it is telling us to hold off on installing the guns if you're going to have the canopies open. So this is to install them and then cover them up so you can see them on the inside, but they're not protruding. If you're going to have them open with the gunners in so you can see the detail a bit more clearly, you might want to install a flying stand, but it hasn't given you that option. Right, let's see, we're on step 66 now, and I've only ever built one Lysander in the past, and this was quite a difficult area constructed. All this glazing that goes around the wings, so it'll be interesting to see how this comes together. So again, we've got differences for A and B. I'm just having a look. We've got different side panels for A and B. Front windscreen is the same. So windscreen, side panels, rear panel, we've got this mount point there for the wings. I think the wings are going to go into these biscuit fittings here. Then we've got some glazing going over the top. There's something going on the inside. So is that another bit of, does that get painted? I'm not seeing a paint colour for it. Then we've got what this looks like if you want to do it canopies open. So you've got smaller side panels and this slid back. I guess you then and then you've got the roof sections going in. I don't know what happens to that bit then. Does that slide back, or is it just removed? How does that work? Okay, but then they repeat that for scheme B with some slightly different parts. Then step 72, we're installing a glazed bit in the tail. That's not detail that I remember from a last build. We've got a little lens going in for the landing lamp there. Then we are prepping up for wing assembly. We are drilling a hole and it's telling us the size of the hole this time. So we've got 2-part wings there, and we can see that ailerons are missing, so we'll be installing those separately. And there we are, installing them separately. We can modify them so that we can have them at different angles. So we've got 2 options there. So that you need to, it doesn't tell you which is in flight and which is landing and takeoff, so you need to understand that for yourself before you build it up, but you don't want to do the opposite of how it should be with the tail. So it's a shame they've not told you that. It's a minor thing, but it's also, you know, there's always a niggle in there. Then we've got little wing lamps going in, pitot tubes. We've got 2 different types there. Wing struts going on. Feels like we're getting to the end here now. Then we've got another glazed piece going in as we install the wing. Then we install the other wing. Oh, then we're on engine, and there was another glazed bit. So step 90, and we're building the engine up. So what have we got? We've got a back base and then a front bit, a pin that's going to allow us to have a rotating prop, then the spinner, so we're putting that in. Then we've got what looks like some form of exhaust pipe work or something. Building up the ring, again, drilling a little hole. Then we've got the little exhaust bulge there going on, and then an inner ring going in, which then mounts onto your engine. Then we've got the cowling going round, 3-piece cowling, and then the ring, so whether you're on open or closed as an option, so that's great. Then we're assembling the exhaust and putting that in. It looks like the exhaust is recessed, so that should look nice when painted. And then we've got a little air scoop being made, and we're installing those. Then we've got this little blade sight thing going on the front there. That wasn't on my last kit either. So this is a better detailed kit than the previous Edward Lysander I built. Then we're mounting the engine on, propeller on, simple propeller and spinner. We've got, right, moulded all in one bombs and the mounts there, so plopping those on, or yeah, I mean these are options. If you're building B, you've got to put them on. Well, I guess you don't have to. You could cut the bombs off, I guess. Then mounting, we've got 2 options, different options for ordnance to mount under the wheel wings. So you can go with 1 heavier bomb or 4 smaller bombs. Yeah, I guess it's, you can't have 1 on one and 1 on the other. Yeah, interesting. And then what have we got here? We've got some form of rod, not sure what that is, and I haven't seen that on my previous kits. Right, last page now, step 114, would you believe? There's another little rod going in there. That's where we drilled a hole, so not quite sure what that is for. And then we've got something going on that looks decidedly like a camera. Looks like a wing camera. Don't know enough about it to be sure. again on B, so I guess that's to confirm kills or something. Then we've got an aerial going in, and it's showing you the orientation of the aerial, so that's interesting. Yeah, and then I think we must have triangular rigging on this, have we? Don't know, not showing the rigging, but we've got the what look like aerials going in the wings as well. Then we're putting the guns in because we've got an open cockpit version. Still not sure what happens to these side panels. Right, okay, that is it. 118 steps. That is comprehensive instructions. No issues with that. Let's have a look at the paint instructions. So we've got a single sheet paint instructions. My light's bouncing off you a bit there. There we go. Typical Airfix style. We've got very clear imagery there. It's nice and easy to see. You know, it's a good size, it's not tiny. We've got all 4 profiles visible there. We've got our paint instructions, and we've also got our decal instructions, which is including, in this instance, the stencils as well. So we've got everything all in one sheet here. So this is paint scheme A. And we've got silver underwings here on one side and on the tail, and then black underwing there with a silver aileron. So that's a very interesting paint scheme, isn't it? Yeah, really like that. Yeah, giving you the depth of the yellow tips on the prop there. No decals going on the prop, I note. Which I'm sure is correct because Airfix do their research well as a rule. We've got a little research note there. Photographs of number 16 Squadron Lysander shows that the upper wing roundels were not carried for a period of time. Camouflage demarcations were hard-edged with very little overspray. Right, okay, which suggests they were probably brush painted on rather than spray painted on. I would guess. Again, I'm no real expert on aircraft. So yeah, let's flip this over and have a look at paint scheme B. So we don't have that note about overspray, so maybe you can have softer edges on this. And in many ways, this is a more typical camouflage with the beige green underneath. So yeah, interesting. And then we've got the little flashes of yellow from the ordnance there, and I'm guessing we've painted the bomb racks in aluminium or something. And again, showing all the decals, the stencils. We have more markings on this version. I think this is the way I will go. We've got some, as well as the camouflage, we've got some wavy markings to do. So quite complex painting to be done, and you're going to have to think about the sequence here because you've got spars in different colours. So you're painting the wings before you're attaching them and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, and if you want to have the canopies open, painting this could be very interesting. So yeah, lovely. No problems with the paint instructions at all. I think they're lovely. Let's have a look at decals. Okay, our decals, we know are Cartograph, and for me, Cartograph are the leading manufacturer of decals, and you can see that here. These are so thin you can hardly feel them. I mean, obviously you can, but they're not big and chunky. They're really, really thin. The colours are lovely and vibrant. The register is absolutely spot on. And I can read all the words in all of these stencils, really nice and clear, as is the dials there. I think I will try and separate these and punch them out come the time. The maps could be better, but they're very usable, so no real great issue there. Yeah, very good, and it's nice to see that we've got the paint scheme A, paint scheme B separations back. I really liked that. So we've got common, A or B. It disappeared for a short while on some kits, but it's back, and I love that. Yeah, nothing wrong with those. Class leading decals. You won't have any issues with those. You won't need much softener either. With cartograph decals, you don't need to be putting softener in the water or softener on the surface first or any of that, because these will break up and rip if you over soften them. So I always put cartograph decals down with just the water first and place them, and then if I need to, soften them afterwards, but not before we go. Yeah, brilliant, no issues with those. Right, now it's time to get to grips with the plastic. Okay, the way we do first impressions, if you've not seen them before, and if you haven't, why not? We've got over 200 kit reviews in the playlist, go and check them out. Is we will look at the plastic parts. I will take some close-up photographs, and you will see those towards the end before we do our final roundup of thoughts on the kit. I'm doing these in reverse order that they were packed in the box, so I can repack in the same order. And this is sprue E. And as you can see, we've got lots of small parts, but the first thing that strikes you is look how well laid out that is. It's not all higgledy-piggledy. I mean, it's quite beautiful to look at in its own right, isn't it? Very well laid out. So we've got the engine parts here, and what have you. So that's all engine, which is interesting. Then we've got all wheel structure, and then we've got wheel hubs, tail wheels, so this is all wheels, and then the wheel tyres. So you can divide this into two: engine, landing gear. So when you're working on the wheels, you're just working off this one sprue. Airfix do this from time to time. They don't do it in all their kits. I guess it doesn't always make sense to do that, but I really like the way that they do that. Okay, it means that you've not got like several part sprues on the go at a time. It's a small thing, but it's the little things that make a difference, isn't it? So let's have a look. Don't know what that is. Someone's hair, not mine. Right. So engine detail is nicely moulded. We've got a lot of sprue gates there, and they're quite thick, so you've got a fair amount of cleanup to do on these parts. But what I'm not seeing is any significant seam, so it's just sprue gate cleanup really. There must be seam, but with just my reading glasses on, I can't see it. Nice detailed moulding. We've got recessed rivets all the way around both sides of this ring, which is absolutely spot on, as it should be. Exhaust, as we saw, is slightly recessed. You've got the ability there to open that up a little bit more before you glue it together if you wish, but I think many modelers would just be happy with how that is. Yeah, that looks good. And nice detail on the engine cowling. Again, we've got recessed rivets. Really nice. Lovely details. Yeah. Crisply moulded. I'm not seeing any issues with this. Looking at the wheels now, again, we've got lots of panel line detail. This is much more detailed than the Edward kit built. Lots and lots of detail, fastener detail. Oh, got some raised rivet detail here. Interesting. So that's nice. Yeah, clear mounting points on our little ordnance wings there. And then we've got our wheel hubs. Don't know why we've got oh yes I do, we've got two per side. Silly thing. Right, then we've got our separate wheel hubs. So they're nice. You could actually paint them on the sprue, because the sprue gates are on the inside that you're going to clean up anyway, so you could paint them, then take them out. So that's nice. Yeah, that's all looking good. Tyres, there's no tread and there's no sidewall writing or anything. So I guess in the fullness of time, someone might do some resin ones, but there's nothing wrong with those. They are weighted, and because there's no tread, cleaning up the two halves will be easy when done. So yeah, and these are the inner liners of the wheel arches there. Yeah, very nice. The only thing I can't see is the headlamps, but we build them later, don't we? Well, that's a good start. So I'll take some pictures and then we'll come and have a look at the other one. Sprue D, and let's see, we've got cockpit interior parts, so the seats and things. We've got some parts for the engine, so exhaust, air intake. We've actually got two different ones, so there is more to come from the Lysander in the future. Then we've got ordnance, and then we've got our two figures, control stick, bomb mounting racks, two different ones. I don't obviously see the difference. I'm guessing it's spacing, so again suggests more coming. Then we've got our ammunition, more ordnance stuff, some of the cockpit internal parts, propeller, spinner, guns, that strange rod, and aerials and bits and pieces here. Have to be careful of those. Yeah, lots of little parts. So we've got the two seats here, one with moulded in seat belts. In this light it looks a little soft moulded, but I think the plastic's a bit shiny, so I think it's just how the light is bouncing. I'm sure it'll be fine when painted. Yeah, nice details on our dials there, lots of lovely texturing, raised rivets and bits and pieces. So I think stamping out the dials and putting them in is the way to go if you can do that, and then painting the other bits up. Yeah, lots of detail on all these parts. We've got raised rivets on that, whatever that is. Ordnance could be better, because of the ring at the back is solid. So, you know, in a way it would have been nice for that to have been a separate ring that you put on, so that you've got an open end. You could drill that out though, to improve the look of that. So yeah, they've definitely done ordnance differently and subsequently better in the past. Thinking the Walrus, for example. But you can see here on this larger one you've got open ends, so whether that might make some people go with the larger one, it might change my mind on which way we're going on that. The figures, okay, they're a bit soft moulded, but they do look great. Painted up they'll look stunning. The separate, I mean the hands aren't oversized, that's always a bit of an issue. Nicely done hands, and I'm just looking at the two heads now. They have the same expression, which is quite solemn, but I guess it's serious business, flying into war. Yeah, I think painted up they'll look great. Then you know what I'm going to say with the propeller. I mean, it's really nicely done, and you know, I can't see any mould seam on it. It's fabulous. But then we've got the sprue gates on the blades, which I don't particularly like. So I don't know why they do that rather than on this bit, which is going to get covered by a spinner. I don't know, but you know, you got to find something to grumble about, haven't you? Spinner, that looks nicely done, and we've got sprue gates on the inner surface there, so you can remove that and you've not got clean up on the outer surface, which is lovely. Lovely detail on the top of these ammunition canisters, with not just the handles but the rivet detail, so they're as good as any resin replacements I've seen. So that's a big improvement for Airfix. Thank you very much. Guns, nicely detailed. Yeah, no issues with that. This sight, I don't know whether that's oversized. It feels like it probably is, so I'm sure there'll be an extra replacement when there's an upgrade set, but I think you can get away with that. Yeah, all nice, no moulding issues, lovely stuff. Sprue C now, and I haven't mentioned this on the other sprues, but we have got a big tab with a C in, so you're not having to mess around putting a bit of tape on it to understand which sprue is which. And one of the things that I do sometimes, where you've got the sprue letter on the inside of the sprue, is just paint it so your eye's immediately drawn to it, and it just makes it quicker and easier to find it. Who else does box reviews and gives you tips at the same time? Right, framework now for the interior cockpit in the main. And then we've got the fuel tank here. There is a lot of release agent on this. I said the plastic was quite shiny, but it's absolutely smothered in release agent. So those people that say, oh, I never wash my parts and it's never a problem, you're fools. Wash your parts, get it all off, because there is no way that is not interfering with any other products you put on here. Right, a cursory glance across and the detail looks really, really nice. We've got nice detail on the pedals, simplified but nice. You could potentially drill out these, but I think under a wash they will look drilled out, so they're fine as they are. Lots of, we've got raised rivet detail on the little strengthening plates on the joints for the framework, so that's lovely. Yeah, really nice detail. The framework itself is nice. There is seam, but it's very light, so one pass with the back of your knife blade and it'll be done. So that's all good. We've got raised rivet detail on the pilot openings in the framework there, so that's nice. And then we've got what looks like, it looks like stitching, but it's not. It's just the way the rivet pattern is. But this is recessed on the struts here. Again, nicely done. A bit of seam. There's more visible seam on this sprue than the others, but it's, it's much less than a lot of manufacturers you see. Leading manufacturers like MkI and people, ICM, have a lot more seam than this. So this is really well moulded. They've done a good job of this. Yeah, lovely detail on this framework. This is all going to be very visible, and it's going to look stunning under a wash. So by giving us the raised rivets here where they can, when you do your wash, it's going to look a lot more natural than recessed rivets. So yeah, very nice, very, very nice. We've got a few ejector pins tabs to remove, but at least we've not got ejector pins that we're having to deal with in the actual moulding. So yeah, pretty nice that. Sprue B, and we are on wings, and the whole sprue just deals with wings and ailerons. So we've got our two wing halves, we've got our aileron halves there, and first thing I always look at with these sort of things is, have we got any sink? And the answer is no, we don't. This is really, really nice. Lots of really subtle texturing. It's not overdone. You can see it there in the light, but it is all very, very visible. Yeah, really nice. We've got these little slightly rounded lumps. I've not seen these on the Lysander wings before. They're not imperfections because there's nothing on the other side, so they're intended to be there. They're moulded in. So they look stunning. I've not seen those before. So again, we've got more detail in this Lysander kit than any other Lysander I've ever seen. Really, really nicely done. Panel lines, not overdone. So criticism that used to be at, now then, I have spotted a small bit of sink. So just here, can you see that in the light there? We've got a tiny bit of sink, yeah, on this corner here. So we've got a fairly thick piece of plastic running on the leading edge, and then it turns up and that corner is just sunk a little bit. Let's have a look, is that the same on? No, we don't have that issue on the other wing. But that's easy to sort because they put recessed rivets in. We can fill that, build that up, sand it flat, and then go back over our rivets with the rivet tool. So that's nice and easy to do. If we'd had raised rivets, you're then in the realms of having to replace your raised rivets, which can be a pain for some people. You got to buy aftermarket ones and what have you. Not always available depending on where you are in the world. So yeah, so one small imperfection there, but the detail is lovely. I mean, looking at the underside now, tons and tons of detail on there. All the rivets are recessed. We do have some raised detail, but they're not rivets. Whereas we do have raised rivets on the ailerons, so that's also nice. Moulding is lovely and crisp, loads of detail. I mean, with the exception of that one tiny pinprick pinhead of sink, everything else spot on. Okay, sprue A now, and we'll talk about something in a minute, but let's just talk about these plastic parts. These are the last of the grey plastic parts. We've only got clear parts left. And as you can see, we've got the two fuselage halves, we've got the tails, it has whopping big tail planes, and some other bits for the wings there, and our two tail sections, the rudder sections. So all instantly looks really nice, and again, it's laid out really clearly, easy to get to. The detail, the texturing on the fuselage is really, really nice. It's done with such finesse. You can see every individual rib. You see that in the light. And it's not overdone as it can be. It's subtle, but it's there. You will see it when you've painted it in the light and it'll look spot on. Nice raised fastener detail. Where we've got these particular fasteners, because it's not rivets per se, so that's really nicely done. Yeah, lovely and crisp. Yeah, we've got some raised rivet detail on the tails, so we've got a combination of raised and recessed. So I think they've done recessed where they feel it's going to be needed, where you might sand it off or you might have a lot of decal action, and then they've gone raised where they don't need to. And that's quite. Don't think I've ever seen that before, where you've got like this hybrid of raised and recessed. So I'm interested to know what people think about that, because you know, it's taken me a while to get to the point where I say, actually, I'm in the recessed camp, and now I've got this hybrid situation, and I'm quite liking that. So yeah. I'd be interested in viewers' thoughts on hybrid, part raised, part recessed rivets. What you think about that? Yeah, all looks really nice. I'm not seeing any moulding issues, and I'm certainly not seeing any sink, no flash, not much in the way of seam. It's all lovely. However, I do have a little bit of surface scuffing on both fuselage halves in this area here. So where we've got the rounding, I don't know if that's going to come up on camera, but you will see it on the photos in a minute. I mean, it's very minor, but if you're buying this kit, you've got two sprues in a bag, and you've got a sprue on top of this that's rubbing. So open up your bag, take the second sprue out, put the sprue in between the bags, and put your lid back on if you're storing it long term to prevent any further damage. I keep my Airfix bags because they're decent bags, so I'll rebag this into separate bags. But yeah, there is a little bit of slight scuffing. It's not going to be noticeable. You're not even going to have to polish it out, although I probably will. But yeah, very nice. Right, our clear parts now, and as always, they are beautiful and crystal clear. from Airfix. It's not often that I say, well, these could be better. For me, Airfix are one of the leading manufacturers on clear parts. Now, I know one or two other companies have got a reputation for really clear parts, like ICM, for example. But I'm fairly sure there is no one polishing these parts, but they are absolutely stunningly clear. I can't see any issues. I've got no spidering, I've got no inclusions. Really nice. And the moulding of these lenses that go into the wheels, really nicely done. You'll see that on the photos in a mo. And the lenses that go around them, really clear. Inevitably we're going to have some distortion in these curved parts. Well, let's just have a look at what that looks like. So yeah, we do on the curve as you'd expect, but it's not pulling too much, and virtually none on the straight pieces. And as I put my hand behind it, I mean, it pretty much goes away. There would have been distortion on the actual aircraft, of course. So I think that all looks good and natural. You've not got that sort of bumpy effect, almost watery effect that you sometimes get. I can't see that in any of these. These are really nice. Again, a bit of distortion, mainly pulling on the sides here, but nothing major. And then on our flat parts, no distortion really. A little bit, if I'm honest, a tiny ripple, but it's not noticeable. And again, once you've got that built up, that all just becomes very clear. So yeah, they've done a good job of the clear parts. The frames are not overly done, but definitely deep enough to be able to make masks. I mean, a masking set for this is probably desirable for a lot of people because there's a lot of individual glazing to be done there, and you've got some windows that have got complicated frame edges. They're just about thick enough to put tape over and cut your own, but I think a masking set, soon as one comes out, might be the way to go with that. Pretty definite that most people are going to want a masking set. We've got some raised rivet detail on some of the frames. These are is the glazing that goes in the wing. And we've got quite a fair amount of variety here, so some of these might get used in different versions in the future, I guess. So yeah, I still haven't worked out what happens to these side panels when it's open. Do they slide back, in which case they haven't included them, or do they lift out and get dropped in with the pilots, in which case should we have them? Don't know. If you know how that works and where those go, because I'm fairly sure that the Airfix magically disappear thing can't be right. I'm interested to know that. But yeah, I mean, it's just really nicely done. No issues with that. Right, let's take some photos and then we'll sum up. So there we have it, the all new tool Lysander from Airfix in 1:48 scale. What's my first impression? Let's run through the numbers and then we can talk about it more generally. So let's start with packaging. We've got a nice, sturdy, robust, corrugated box. It's protecting the kit really, really well from crush damage. Not all manufacturers have got this yet, and I'm thinking about people like Tamiya who are still using flimsy lids and haven't understood that the modern market for kits means that most sales are arriving through the post and therefore are getting thrown around a little bit. So a tougher box is required, and Airfix are all over that, so that's brilliant. The internal packaging, again, not bad. In the main, you fit the box. You've not got a massively oversized box. If you think about the recent ICM Black Hawk we did a review of, you could chuck everything around in there and we had broken parts as a result. This is much, much better. It's not perfect, but it's much, much better. You've got 2 sprues per bag, and that has resulted in some very light scuffing. Over time, in your stash, that will get worse, so you do need to act on that. Either take the wings out, and what I've sometimes done is I've taken, where you've got 2 sprues in a bag, I've taken one of the sprues out, so you've got one in a bag, and then the other are sandwiched between the 2 bags, so you don't need any more bags, but everything's protected in the box. Or put a bit of card in between the 2 of them so that they can't damage each other, and that protects your kit for longer term storage. But yeah, if you're buying one of these kits 5-10 years down the line, just be aware that you're likely to get quite a bit of scuffing on there where the parts have rubbed. So yeah, it'd be nice if they came up with a different solution. It's interesting, when they did the 124 Spitfire, they had some paper dividers in there, and I thought that worked really well. So how that affects costs, I've no idea. But yeah, that's the only improvement on the packing, is to have the sprues separated in some way so they can't rub against each other. Even though there's minimal movement in here, there is some, and things move around and will rub. Although I've already separated mine, so that's not going to happen in there now. So packaging, better than many companies, but there's always something you can improve, isn't there? You know, a big fan of continuous improvement. So yeah. Then we come to our instructions. For me, Airfix do some of the best instructions. They're clear. The paint instructions at every step, Decal instructions at every step. It's clear what you're doing. They use that little system where you can see where the last part went on. Where necessary, they'll show you orientation separately. Where necessary, they'll blow up a part so you can see the paint instructions more clearly. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Nothing wrong with Airfix instructions. If everyone did instructions like Airfix, I'd be a very happy bunny. So yeah, that then takes us to the paint instructions. Again, lovely, clear, easy to follow, easy to see. It would be nice if they were 1-to-1 scale, so you could make templates for the camouflage. But you know, that's just an observation. There is nothing wrong with the paint instructions as they come, and the decals, you know, Cartograph, class leading decals. Airfix use Cartograph for everything. You know, there'll be no issues with that. They're as good as decals can get. So yeah, really, really great, and decent coverage. You've got the stencils, you've got the main markings, you've got lots of interior decals in there, so they haven't been shy on the decals to save some money. So brilliant. Thought that was really, really good. Plastic parts, well, the crispness of the moulding is great. It's much improved in the recent couple of years. So no soft moulding other than on the figures. Always going to be a contentious area. Now, I was on the understanding that Airfix had officially moved away from figures, so I don't know whether this is a long-term design that's been picked up, dropped, and they've finally got it over the line, and the figures were designed in before that decision was made, or whether Airfix have sort of gone, well, we might include figures sometimes if it's within the cost target of the kit and it's doable, we might do it. I don't know, but we've got them here and they are very, very welcome. So we've got 2 figures. They might be a bit softly moulded, but once painted up, that disappears because your paint is showing what's going on. You might have to paint in your shadow and your light rather than rely on the lazy method of doing a quick wash and a dry brush, but that's fine. So yeah, the figures could be improved, but we've got them. So let's count our blessings. The rest of it is very, very, very nicely done. It's lovely and crisp. It's detail heavy where you want it. It's well thought through. There's not much cleanup other than the sprue gates. The seam is really, really light. You've got no flash. There was one spot of sink that we found and easy to sort. So I think a well-engineered kit, well thought through, good tooling, much more detail than the other Lysander kit I've built and others that I've seen. So I think if you've got a Lysander kit in your stash, now's the time to put it on eBay and use the money to get this one, because this is the best one I've seen. I think this is the best Lysander on the market. Clear parts, all good. I had no issues with the clear parts either. Again, I think Airfix are one of the very best manufacturers for clear parts in the main. I have had issues with clear parts from Airfix in the past. More quality control issues than anything. Clear parts can be the Achilles heels of any manufacturer, but these were spot on, as good as they can get. Only thing missing from all of this that I've just said is a little instruction on the rigging. It would be nice, just one little image to say it goes there. I thought it was the triangular, but looking at the box art, it's a V shape. Tiny niggly thing, but you know, when something is almost perfect, and I've said this many times before, you have to nitpick to have something to talk about. So, is this a perfect kit? No. I have yet to ever find a perfect kit. Is it nearly a perfect kit? Oh yeah. Do you need aftermarket for this? You don't need it. You absolutely don't need it. You might want it. You might want a resin figure instead. Yeah. You might want resin tyres. It's not going to bring a lot to it though, is it? Photo etch. It might make tiny minor differences to 1 or 2 tiny things, but in the main, any photo etch sets you get is going to be in the cockpit. You're not going to see most of it, and it's just money for old rope. So for me, this is beautiful straight out of the box. It's another great kit from Airfix. They're absolutely rocking it at the moment, and this is just the start of some brilliant releases from Airfix this year. I saw at the Bolton Model Show a couple of this year's releases, built up the Jaguar and the Stalwart, and the Stalwart is absolutely amazing. So a lot more to come from Airfix, but this is a great start point for 2025. Well done, Airfix. I absolutely love it. Can't wait to build it. Spot on. So there you go, that's my view. I think this is a great little model. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope that was interesting and informative and that you've now got one on order. Thanks for looking in. You enjoy your modelling. Bye for now.